Hi, everyone. John Liebman here. You're watching ForBassPlayersOnly.com, the premier site online for learning bass. I'm here with an old friend, a good friend. We go way back, Bill the Buddha Dickens. I know him. I first saw him with Ramsey Lewis in 1984. Bill has also played with everyone from Pat Metheny, George Michael, Joe Zawinul, Janet Jackson, Grover Washington Jr., Shaka Khan, Mary J. Blige, Freddie Hubbard, Al Di Meola, Dennis Chambers, Steve Morse, Randy Newman. I think we get the point. Bill, it's so great to see you. You've always got stuff going on. I checked our last interviews. Last time we did an interview on ForBassPlayersOnly.com was 2014. Mm-hmm. And the first interview we did was 2010. So it's been a while, and I know our audience is eager to hear from you about what's going on. So bring us up to date. I know we can't cover everything, but maybe a few highlights of your career and what's been happening. So talk to me.
Well, there's been, dealing with the COVID thing, and also been doing recordings with my cousin, Marshall Jefferson, who's nominated for a Grammy this year. And also, I'm actually sitting here in the studio with the producer of Chris Poland, the guy I just introduced you to. Jim Gefford, he produced the whole album for Chris Poland, and he's also a label mate on Rope-A-Dope as well.
Rope-A-Dope. Chris is a good guy. I interviewed Chris at a Summer NAMM show. I don't know how many years ago, but I really enjoyed it. He's a good guy and a great player.
Oh, phenomenal. It's reminds me a lot of Alan Holdsworth in a way, and not too many people on this planet Earth sounds like those two, like Chris and Alan.
And in our recent conversations, you were telling me about Leo Nocentelli and your association with him from the Meters, of course. Talk to me about that.
15, 16 years in. I mean, we've been at it a long time, different projects. Right now, he has a record out called On the Other Side, which was recorded 50 years ago. And the masters got lost in the Hurricane Katrina and showed up at a flea market where somebody had bought the masters, and ended up signing to a label that deals with, sort of the old records that come out from 20 years ago. But for some reason this record took off. I've never seen nothing like this in my life, where it's selling so much, plus it's on pop radio, along with Bruno Mars and other major artists in rotation. He's 75 years old. I mean, I've never seen nothing like this in my life.
Did the person know what he or she was buying at the flea market, or did it just look like something?
No, I'm sure they knew what it was, but they didn't. I'm not sure if they knew it was 50 years old.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That is amazing.
Yep.
Bernie Worrell is another name on the list of people I wanted to talk to you about. I know you did some tribute stuff, some really cool stuff, Questlove and a whole bunch of other people. And it was a tribute concert, or tell me about
it was a fundraiser for Bernie Worrell some 6 years ago. And they had on the bill Living Color, Rick Springfield, Glenn Close. They had the original David Letterman band. They also had Leo Nocentelli, and they had Parliament Funkadelic, Bootsy Collins, Questlove, John Baptiste. There was some other guests on that show. I think the Food Fighters were around on there. I'm not sure, but it was a whole host of people. Oh, Jerry Harrison and David Byrne from Talking Heads.
That's quite a lineup, quite a diverse lineup.
Very diverse, yeah, extremely diverse. I mean, but Bernie Worrell, he's pretty much kind of performed and record records and all styles of music. So a lot of people came out to pay tribute, and it was a sold out concert. And I came there to just I basically went there to help out Leo, which ended up being that I ended up playing with Parliament Funkadelic, Bootsy Collins, John Baptiste, and Buckethead was there as well.
Oh,
Guitar,
very,
yeah.
very.
He performed. So, it was a great fundraiser for Bernie, of course. I did some shows overseas with Bernie Worrell and Fred Wesley, Leo Nocentelli, and Statmore from Galactic. We did 2 sold out shows at Billboard Live in Osaka and Japan, and that was wonderful. Great
Yeah.
times, great memories.
It's great to get caught up on some of the older stuff. Let's not wait so long before we do another follow-up interview. So
I hope not. I don't want to be 70 something years old. I would be in our 70s.
well, then let's talk about something current. I understand you have a new record in the works. What's
Yes,
up?
I've been really working and writing for the last few years. Kind of like I have this I guess demos of about 35 songs, and I've taken the best ones that I like and saved those and said, okay, well, this is going to be the core of the album. But as it goes with us writers, you're always writing something new and better. So and going in a direction that I'm going to probably be singing more than I ever done in my entire career. And there'll still be some bass playing on there, but it's more focused on the vocals and more focused on like the first record production, that sort of thing.
I'm sure there will be some, but I'm also sure there will be more than just some bass playing, knowing you.
Yeah, well, it all depends. I mean, the thing I think that I like the most about where I'm at as a bass player is that I can play so simple you wouldn't even know it's me, and then I can be extreme, and I think the thing about our core audience for bass players nowadays, you sort of have you have more people or more bass players that are more interested in how much you can play rather than you're playing for the song. And I hear a lot of records where I hear bass players are just overplaying, and it's fine because I think what they do, it fits for their generation in the music. But the thing overall is that you kind of lose the essence of the song because you have all these the bass players that are playing very busy and not leaving space, because space is just as important as filling up the hole, the gap.
Well, that segues beautifully into one of the questions I was going to ask you. We're a bass instruction site for BassPlayersOnly.com. We've got more people every day coming to ForBassPlayersOnly.com to learn bass. Okay. And these are not career-bound people. These are people that can either kind of play the bass or they've always wanted to play the bass. They want to get together with their friends, play some classic rock riffs, some blues shuffles, maybe some walking bass lines, maybe a little funk R&B, whatever it is they're into, but they're not trying to set the world on fire. So in that context, what advice do you have for someone who wants to learn bass? What do you think is important for them to know? You got a good head start with what you just told me, but anything else that you think they should know and hear?
The main thing is what do you want how do you want to, I guess, present yourself as a bass player within a group or an artist situation, or if you're just doing out the jam with friends. Some people are just hobbyists. If you're just into it as a hobby, I mean, the best advice I have is learn songs. They have programs now that you can just drag and drop the MP3 into a program like Transcribe, something like that, and you're able to slow down the song. You're able to highlight parts that are a little complicated to you. Those things are really, really important, because the thing is that our role is that we are the, along with the drummer, we're the foundation and the heart of the band. You don't have a marriage between those two, then you have nothing. and also learn how to play with the drummer, or get you they got tons of drum loops out there that you can play along with. And I always highly advise to uh, people that are just starting out, learn how to play with the bass drum. Focus on the bass drum. you know Even if it's very simple, don't try to play anything extra. Just focus on that. Make sure that you line up timing wise and feel wise with that bass drum. You know, that's how I came up as a little child. That's all I heard was a pulse, and that's how I adapted to playing bass and playing drums. Was based off of the marriage between the drummer and the bass player and listening to the bass drum. Rocco Pastia said once that he would take the butt of his bass and put it on the bass drum of Garibaldi's bass drum to feel the pulse of the bass drum going through the vibration going through his bass. He would actually put his butt of the bass right on the bass drum. And that's, that to me that's part of the marriage of why there was such an incredible, duo. I mean, those two guys were just phenomenal. They, nobody sounded like them. I mean, some of your greatest bass players that weren't known for soloing were known for how they played the song, and how they laid down the foundation. And I think a lot of the younger kids now gravitate to like forgetting about learning the foundation of bass, but they jump into trying to impress their friends, and not look at the artist and say, "Well, yay, I'm here, I'm working for you. What do you need first?" Kind of thing. But for hobbyists, I just think that if you're going to get into it, like you talk about, funk, blues. The only way you're really going to learn those things well is just listen to the records, try to imitate the bass lines on that until you internalize it, and then you make it your own. Rather if it's not, maybe it's not as pronounced as that guy that played that line, but you're able to feel it in a way that you'll be able to express yourself to a drummer or a guitar player or a whole band, Even if you're just going to jam sessions. I think it's very important you go to jam sessions. You're not going to get all the oohs and ahs that, most bass players, they come to see you do that. You know what I mean? And I kind of feel like I'm the one of the pioneers of that whole oohs and ah thing. You know what I mean? More people gravitate to all of the stuff, the chops, the ability to play two changes, all of that. They call it acrobats, but they don't realize it's basically I'm doing paradiddles, syncopation, like I'm playing on a snare drum and just adding notes to
it. You remind me of Leland Sklar. I've seen him. I've had the privilege to have hung out with him in Germany and NAMM shows and bass player lives and all that stuff. He chops, but it is like a badger with him that, hey, Leland, out of 3,000 records you've played on, how many solos have you taken? And he goes, 0. And he's proud. It's exactly what you're talking about. Just don't be flashy. Serve the song is what he says. Lay down the foundation with the drummer, lock in, give the music what it needs.
What I will add to that is that he did take a solo on the song "So Far Away" by Carole King.
That I think that was not him. That was Charlie. No,
I thought that was.
You mean it goes? Yeah. That's not Lee.
Oh, I thought that was Lee on that. I could have sworn that was Lee. Okay.
No, but there's one thing that's kind of like a solo in the song that nobody can. That James Taylor song.
Yep.
Boom, 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 boom.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about. That is the closest thing to a solo on a record from Leland Sklar I've ever heard.
Yeah. But one thing about Lee Sklar, he comes from the late 60s. So he really adapted to a lot of the the more solid bass players, but he also took on sort of the James Jamerson approach too. He's very lyrical at the same time.
Oh yeah.
You know, one thing about Lee Sklar, he plays for the song, but he puts his signature on it. And he started out early on with that signature. You know, everything he played, you could tell it's Lee Sklar after 3 or 4 bars, you know, because most guys in that era played pretty straight. You know what I mean? Pretty, you know, just average. He was a little bit more different. The other cat that I really love is the bass player from Grand Funk Railroad.
Oh yeah, Mel. No, is
Yeah,
it?
Mel.
I never knew how to pronounce. Is it Shocker? Shack? I never knew. And I'm from.
I don't want to say it because I'll end up saying Schechter. It ain't that. but he's one of the best pick players in the world to me in that time during 70, 71 to about 73. And when you hear him play, like I put my earbuds on or listen to him and that drummer had that marriage that I'm telling you about that sounded like they were just one person, you know? And I think that's what that sort of drove Grand Funk up to the top of the food chain as far as some of the greatest rock bands ever, because they had a drum and bass player that played so well together. But at the same time, they did some of that stuff, acrobatic stuff that these kids are doing now, but they made it more musical, you know?
When I was about 14 years old, I thought Mark Farner from Grand Funk was the coolest guy in the world.
Yeah, that. I went to one of those fantasy rock camps. Rudy Starzo invited me out. And he introduced me to Mark. And I said, Mark, can I just do one thing with you? I said, can I play closer to home with you? He said, no problem. And I picked up a 4-string bass and I played whatever I could. That's right. That's right. That's right. Those are signature lines, man. That's what I really express to like people that are hobbyists, beginners, people that if they don't want to make a career out of it, sit down and listen to those records. I mean, really. I mean, there's also, if you're going to learn about notation and that stuff, I mean, you one of the leading guys out there, and they can go to you and and you could teach them this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would love to do that. I kind of liken what you're saying to a shortstop and a second baseman. They've got to really know each other and just be in a groove, a baseball groove. I don't know. Is that a little bit of a stretch, or is it?
Yeah, there are some groups out there. And Jim and I do a lot of session work. He's a phenomenal drummer. He played on my album, song that I did with Mike Gordon from Fish, and Jim played drums on there. And the thing about it, Jim plays super solid, but he knows how to play around the groove, and that, there are some bass players and drummers that sort of like kind of dance around the groove. They know how to play the groove, but they play things outside of it, and it still grooves at the same time and never loses its essence.
I love that.
And those things are like just as important as you just laying it down. One of the things that really happened in music, and I was kind of part of that, is when we had the disco invasion, and bass players were playing like off the bass drum. The bass drum was doing nothing but quarter notes, right? 4 to the floor. Even Earth, Wind and Fire had to take on, that challenge, But now I do a lot of dance music, kind of pop music, kind of dance music kind of stuff. And it's gone right back to that era of Chic, Bernard Edwards, Niles Rodgers. That I did about 3 records like that. I'm recording in my bedroom, rather than being in the studio with a whole band. I miss those days, but it's just good to see that kids are gravitating to that. And now that with that being said, that's also part of what I'm talking about, playing solid, playing with the bass player. And the other thing too is that you want to make people dance. And now I can take that from anywhere from James Jamerson to Jaco Pastorius. Jaco loved to make people dance, as complex as he was. You
I
could
have
throw
to
some.
think about that. I don't.
If you listen to a lot of some of the weather reports, some of the like Teen
Okay,
Town
Birdland,
and
Teen Town. Well, I don't know. I guess you can.
there was like a section in there. It was like a one vamp groove, like when they played it live. Jocko would have the baby powder on the floor, and he'd be doing the James Brown and sliding around. I mean, he was definitely into making people dance, even though it was his sound and his approach.
Okay.
You could hear a lot of.
I have to give that some thought, because that never occurred to me. I'm sure there's a lot of dance evoking music from Jocko. Well, how about, oh yeah, Come On, Come Over.
That's what I'm saying. Jocko came from the what's his duck? What's the guy named Duck
Dunn? Duck Dunn, Booker T and the MGs, all the soul stacks.
He kind of came
Otis
from
Redding.
that era, even though he had a much broader vocabulary, he was playing in a 10-piece, basically rock dance band before he hit the scene. So, you hear a lot of that. I mean, Jocko is a heavy groover.
Oh, absolutely. Now, you mentioned, I want to ask you about your gear. You mentioned 4-string, and I've always thought of you as an extended range bass player, 6-string, 7-string, 9-string. And I asked you, I think in the first interview, I said, you pretty much always play extended range, right? And you said no. And you mentioned a pre-CBS Fender. Was it a Jazz or a Precision?
Yeah, it was 54. No, I mean, I started playing when I was 3. So it's not like 1961.
It was a great story. I'm sorry to interrupt. I read that first interview this morning, and you told your mom, I want to play the instrument that goes boom, boom. And she thought you meant the drums. So that's how you started on drums, and then you started on the bass. That's really love that story.
That's why I have this marriage. So bass and drums has been kind of what I've been about. So yeah.
So tell me about your gear. What are you playing? You still playing the Conklin?
Nowadays, I mean, mostly it's just been studio stuff. I'm still with Aguilar. I'm kind of bouncing around with basses, symphony guitars. Made me a gorgeous customized 7-string. Schecter made me a couple of basses. They called them Bill Dickens signature model. Really, I've been really focused more on songwriting and producing, and being a music director and a recording artist. So for me, it's just kind of like, Aguilar is always dependable. That's how I use for my back line. I use like, 2 410s and 2 212s and 2 751 heads. Because when you're playing with Leo Nocentelli, it's rock at its best.
Now, what a 7-string bass? I assume there's an EADG in there somewhere. What are the other 3? You got 1 higher and 2 lower, or what are the strings?
Yeah, you have the low B, then you have the EADG, and then you have the C and F. My C and F is wrapped like a guitar strings. No winding on it.
Yeah, wow. That's for a bass. That gets we're getting into some controversial territory here. Well, you're
always. That's another interview.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, this is great. Hey, I'm not sure if I asked you 2 questions. Do you have a name for the new record that's coming out?
No, I don't. Not yet. Like I said, still in the making. Not sure where it's going to end up as far as the title, because I'm still writing. And I think for all the fans out there, they're going to be kind of surprised because of the shift in the direction that I'm taking. But as well as, there'll be bass playing there, but again, it'll be more about the song.
Okay. Do you have a target release date?
No, I don't. Not yet. Not yet. But you'll be the first to know.
Okay. Well,
Absolutely.
great. Well, Bill, it's so great catching up with you. Thanks so much. And like I said before, let's not wait so long before we do it again. It was like 8 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's cool to bump into you at a
Yes.
NAMM show here and there. By the way, the January NAMM show is in June this year. So maybe I'll see you there.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
Yes. Well, good luck with the record and everything else, and continued success to you always. And I can't wait to hear the new record and to see what else you're going to do next.
All right. Thank you, sir.
You take care, my friend. I am John Liebman. You're watching the premier site for learning bass online, ForBassPlayersOnly.com. Once again, I'm John Liebman. Let's play bass.